May of 2016. Since Trump has defended himself when they made a bunch of lies about it in the New York Times a few weeks ago and come out of Clinton with the reports of rape settling those charges, and since he's come out and now talked about Vince Foster, the Clintons' numbers are collapsing multi-points every week, with Trump now going way into the lead, and that's even with polls that I think are being spun. The power structure is literally soiling itself right now. So I want to talk about that with Mr. Stone and see how much he can get into in all this and briefing you without giving up too much inside strategy. But it's very, very exciting. And it is pure populism. This is the collapse of the establishment media, the collapse of their disinformation, the collapse of their ability to sell hoaxes. This is a very important time in American history, and Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States if they don't assassinate him or something else like that happens, or they don't just openly steal the election. The Democrats are in panic. Clinton says just sit back and relax, I guess like he'd say when he would rape women. That's in the news. I cannot tell you what an incredible time it is to be alive. We've at least found our fighting spirit. The sleeping giant is awakening. Now, I want to talk about strategy, the latest, what's coming with Mr. Stone. Then I'm going to get tough with him. I respect him, and he always gives us straight answers. But sometimes, he just says, I'm not going to comment. He either tells us the truth or he doesn't comment. I want to know, because meeting with Kissinger, I get he says he'd meet with Kim Jong-un. I mean, he'd meet with anybody powerful and prominent. As long as he doesn't agree with them, like Haas a few months ago, then Haas came out and attacked him a week later. They had the CFR. That's a good sign. I'm seeing nationalism. I'm seeing him go up against political correctness. I'm seeing him expose the crimes of the Clintons. I'm seeing him double down on the Second Amendment. So I'm seeing everything I want when it comes to policies and rhetoric. I've met with globalists. I've met with people before, off record as a journalist, and then as long as what they're doing isn't criminal, I don't break that confidence. That's how you learn things. But VP for me, and I'm going to ask Mr. Stone this, I think it's the litmus test. And I'm really upset about Newt Gingrich cozying up the globalist and all the rest of it. Even if he says nice things about Trump, that guy is hooked in with the globalists big time. I think they try to assassinate Trump, quite frankly. They put someone in like Gingrich. And I'm serious. We saw what they did with Reagan. He's another George Herbert Walker Bush, in my view. So who are we looking at? Who are some of the people? And does Stone agree with that? He joins us now. We'll try to shut up and give him the floor to cover the waterfront. Roger Stone of thestonezone.com. You notice his The Clintons' War on Women by Skyhorse, a bestseller. We sell it at InfoWarsStore.com. You get it at StoneZone.com or Amazon or bookstores everywhere. Notice this is kind of a blueprint now. We had Larry Nichols on, who released a lot of this 20-something years ago, saying Stone's the man to talk to. The Inquirer's coming out next week. So we're really seeing the response to the Clintons' dastardly statement, trying to imply to the New York Times that Trump had done something wrong. Those women have said they never said any of this. Just like the hoax of the rape case, it's all bull. But you will see more hoaxes. Mr. Stone, am I right?
Alex, first of all, it's great to be back with you. And as I've said many times on this program, the views expressed are strictly mine. But I think you're absolutely right that we are at an exciting time in American politics. We are on the cusp of taking our country back. And it has taken someone from outside the realm of politics, from outside the realm of the two-party duopoly, somebody who, in my opinion, is a giant when it comes to communications. I also agree with you that the vice presidential pick is going to be the litmus test as to whether the globalists can co-opt Donald Trump the way, to some extent, they co-opted Ronald Reagan. Kind of reminds me of a story that from the 1980 campaign, when Ronald Reagan had clinched the Republican nomination, and we were headed out to Greenwich, Connecticut for a campaign event. But before we did the event, Reagan had a private, off-the-record sit-down with Henry Kissinger. Now, Kissinger had opposed Reagan's nomination. Kissinger was not a Reagan fan, but more importantly, Reagan was not a fan of détente. Reagan believed that we had to overpower and shut the Soviet Union's war machine down rather than coexist with it. So the men never agreed. They met privately. I was obviously not in the room. It was just Governor Reagan, Dr. Kissinger. When he emerged from the meeting 45 minutes later and he got back in the car, I said, well, Governor, how was your meeting with Dr. Kissinger? He just shook his head and he said, God, the guy smelled like garlic. It was awful. So
Wow.
I think you have a very analogous situation here. I've known Trump 30 years. His ideas, whether it is NATO or whether it is our fiscal situation or if it is our ridiculous trade policy, these are hard-formed personal views that no one is going to change. Not Dr. Kissinger, not the Council on Foreign Relations, not the elites of the Republican Party. So when it comes to the question of the vice presidency, I must tell you, I put my complete and total faith in Donald J. Trump. You're going to hear names on the short list here that, in my opinion, are probably not really under consideration. Names put there for the point of party unity. Names put there to create a smokescreen so that Mr. Trump can have some suspense at the convention. But I would predict this. The nominee will be a nationalist, not a globalist. The nominee will be somebody who shares Donald Trump's views on a broad cross-section of issues. Now, he has, as you know, thrown out some names and talked about a short list and a vetting process. But at the end of the day, there's only one man on the planet who knows what Trump is going to do, and that's Trump. This process is not being managed by his campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski. It is not being managed by the very able lawyer that he's brought in to assist in the vetting, A.B. Culverhouse, who I know well from the Reagan administration, a good man, a patriot. But at the end of the day, only one man's going to make this choice, and I put my full faith in Donald Trump.
If he's a nationalist, peace through strength, a patriot, a constitutionalist, and a free marketer, Trump is going to end up picking somebody that's similar to him or almost exactly like him because he doesn't really like to, to compromise on base values. That makes a lot of sense. And, I've heard from some other little birds and things, the same thing that you talked about with me this morning. Nothing secret you told me or anything, but that there's some folks that are excited that there's a very short list and they're all pretty darn good.
Yeah, I mean, he met with Senator Corker yesterday. I don't know that has any particular significance. My understanding was that Corker asked for the meeting. He is the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. As you know, he was very warm about Donald Trump's foreign policy speech several weeks ago. There's obviously some pressure from some of the party people to take John Kasich on the argument that he would bring you on Ohio. Just my opinion, I think that is unlikely. Never saw any chemistry between he and Donald Trump. Marco Rubio, in my opinion, is not a finisher in this process. Not the right man either. There is, of course, some discussion of a woman, Governor Suzanne Martinez of New Mexico. Also, someone I think many people have overlooked, Shelley Moore Capito from West Virginia, a very distinguished U.S. senator, the daughter of former Governor Arch Moore, a nationalist, a fine woman, be an excellent choice. There's a lot of people I think that are being looked at who may not be in the newspapers, but only one man knows. So I just want to reassure those in your audience who see some of these globalists and have their names tossed around. I'm not afraid. I think at the end of the day, Donald Trump will make the right choice.
All I know is his actions, he's only turning up the heat on the globalists. He's doing exactly what the mainstream media tells him not to. They are acting really scared now.
No, I think they're in high panic mode because the multi-million-dollar negative TV ads didn't work during the primaries. The hatchet job by the New York Times about his behavior with women in the 70s and 80s, in my opinion, just set the standard. Now we have to review Bill Clinton's attitude and treatment of women in the 70s and 80s. And that's an ugly, ugly story. I saw this again with Chris Cuomo and Michael Cohen on CNN. This is not about expression.
Well, Roger Stone, stay there. It's just miraculous. You write this book 6 months ago, and you're Trump's confidant, and now, like your book's crimes in a really valiant way. And 40-plus-year friend of Donald Trump, best-selling author. And we've got New York Times article here. As Trump and Clinton clash, this is in the front of the paper, two operatives duke it out in their shadows. And you learn a lot from this. Boy, I tell you, we are inside their heads. They are panicked, as he just said earlier. I want to talk about some of these reportedly fake super PACs out there trying to Glomaway's support as well. What he expects the Clintons to do next is, since he's with us for the full hour, he said he can do that. We'll take some calls the last 15 minutes for your wild card questions. Quick questions for Roger Stone. 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. Roger, this is a short segment, so I'm going to try to get right back to you. Where do you want to start? This New York Times piece or just the boldness of Trump, the courage of Trump? I mean, I'm not trying to kiss his butt here. He knows he's a savvy guy. He's in danger. I mean, I've never seen anything like this in modern politics, not bowing. This guy is a brawler. He is a street fighter. I really like what I'm seeing.
In a crusade to save the country. He doesn't need the presidency to validate himself. He doesn't need the presidency to be a success. He's already a massive success. He's probably the best known businessman on the planet. He's built a $10 billion plus personal fortune. So he's doing this not for himself, but for his country. He hasn't seen a golf course in months. He has really worked extremely hard to build what I think is a juggernaut. I think I may have said it on this very program. Stepping in front of the Trump movement is going to be like stepping in front of a moving freight train. This is all coming, and as you correctly point out, it's only June, essentially, and the polls are showing him either in a dead heat or slightly behind or slightly ahead of Hillary. That is unthinkable. We've been told for how many months? Trump can't win. Trump's the weakest candidate. Trump will get slaughtered by Hillary. Of course, all of that is false. The only thing predictable about Donald Trump is that he's entirely unpredictable. And that is what has the Clintons flummoxed.
I know you don't like to talk about yourself, but, I mean, the New York Times, everybody makes the final decision. We've got that. But, I mean, so much of what you say and do, we end up seeing Trump saying and doing. Like, look for him to come out against the Federal Reserve. Does a week later. I mean, countless times. I know he has his own ideas about this. Criticized the Fed on his own before, but, I mean, he's obviously listened to you a lot. He's reading your book, and they figured it out. I'm kind of worried about you, my friend. What do you make of this article putting you up against Brock?
Well, first of all, as I've said, nobody puts words in Donald Trump's mouth. I'm honored that he has seen my book. I'm honored that he is using some of the themes, but he's very much his own man. This story was interesting. I, of course, knew David Brock in Washington when he was a conservative, when he wrote some of the groundbreaking early exposés on the corruption of the Clintons in Arkansas. He's a very charming, very intelligent, very dastardly guy. He's gone over to the dark side. It's very sad. I presume he's done it for the money. And the Soros bankroll will always be larger than what we have to spend. But I think that the Clintons and their operatives like Brock are practicing a strategy of suppression. That's because it worked before. It worked in the 80s. Put the pressure on CBS, NBC.
We have that WorldNet Daily suit and got thousands of pages of documents from the Clinton Foundation. It was call anybody conspiracy theorist, shut down new media, including the left, be anti-free speech. I mean, we have these people.
Yes, the problem is that the toothpaste is out of the tube. No longer do the three networks and a couple major national newspapers have a monopoly on information. So therefore, if CNN doesn't cover it, Network.com will. And you are reaching, as they are, we're probably reaching more people than they are, but you're reaching
Drudges. We're reaching probably 5-6 million people a week that are American consistently, tens of millions tune through it, millions worldwide. But, I mean, it's certainly challenging, and we're just one piece of a larger constellation.
Well, but whether it is the Drudge Report or Breitbart or the Daily Caller or InfoWars or Town Hall or a dozen other sites.
Pandora's box is open.
That's exactly right. And not only that, but these brave and courageous women like Juanita Broaddrick, someone that I admire very much, who chooses her words carefully and has only spoken out when it's important, but she has important things to say. Kathleen Willey, groped in the White House by Bill Clinton when she went to him for help. Paula Jones, who Bill Clinton exposed himself to and demanded oral sex in an Arkansas hotel room. These women were suppressed before. They will not be suppressed now. And there's dozens of more right behind them. They're going to have their day. They're going to have their say. Now, the Clintons can choose to deny the charges, or they can respond.
Stay there, Roger. Your sky's breaking up just a bit. It's been crystal clear so far. Warriors, and do what I say or you're racist garbage. And I'm telling you, the Trump phenomenon is spectacular, and it's only a manifestation of the overall awakening. That's why we don't lose either way. This is exciting. getting back to Roger Stone. Roger, again, amazing times. I want to get into Brock. I want to get into new attacks, but you've got the floor here for 10 minutes before we go to calls. What else is front and center? What else should we be watching? What's the next attack? You've told us months before what the new attack will be. What do you expect? What do we do?
Well, I think, Alex, you just put your finger on it. I have a granddaughter who is in college now, and I know that she and all of her friends are deeply concerned about the issue of sexual assault and rape on the campuses. I think this is a particularly sensitive issue with millennial women, girls, many of whom will be voting for the first time. And I've always thought this was Hillary Clinton's greatest single vulnerability. Now, the mainstream media, Chris Cuomo and CNN and others, would like this discussion to be about marital infidelity or adultery or girlfriends, but it's a much more troubling issue, sexual assault and rape. Bill Clinton is a Bill Cosby-style sexual predator. But what Hillary has done is even worse, because it is Hillary Clinton who has intimidated and bullied and threatened Bill Clinton's victims, either intimidated them so they wouldn't respond to subpoenas, as in the case of Kathleen Willey, or intimidating them so they wouldn't go public with the media. And that abuse of women, I think, is going to be explosive on the campuses. That is the narrative that the Clintons fear. Now, in some cases, for example, the case of Juanita Broaddrick, Hillary did the intimidation herself, squeezing her hand tight, looking her into her eyes and saying, "We appreciate everything you're doing for Bill." In other cases, of course, Hillary would hire heavy-handed private detectives like Jack Palladino or Anthony Pellicano to terrorize these women, kill their pets, threaten their children, smash their windshields, slash their tires, ransack their homes repeatedly. These are the Gestapo tactics of the Clintons. And all bets are now off because Hillary has chosen to get back into the ring. Rather than ride off into the sunset with their stolen money and their fame and their prominence, their insatiable desire for power and money has gotten the best of them. And therefore, I think it's all back on the table. Vince Foster, Travelgate, the selling of pardons to the international financier Mark Rich, the way the Clintons stole the furniture and the silver when they left the White House.
What's old's new? The communist Chinese generals, the missile secrets.
Selling our military secrets to the Chinese funny money. It's all back on the table. I think because none of these things came up 8 years ago within the context of the Democratic primaries, perhaps Hillary thought the statute of limitations had run, or perhaps she thought that the mainstream media would never cover these things. Well, Donald Trump understands all of this, and in his own time frame, and based on his own judgment, he is going to expose the Clintons from top to bottom.
Well, you said this a year ago to me, and I tentatively believed you, but I had to wait and see. It's all come true, and I just am so glad I've been in supporting Trump. Very, very proud of the fact that he's for real, and I'm just on the edge of my seat, quite frankly. This is so epic and so amazing. Speaking of censorship, Gestapo tactics, just 6 months ago, we were talking about the censorship increasing on Facebook. We were getting notices from them. The media would just say you're conspiracy theorists, even though we had the notices telling us we were suspended and things. Drudge picked it up, the new independent, true liberal media, that just means freedom. They stole the language, folks. We hammered it. Now there's a Senate investigation. They've had to admit they did it. They blamed it on low-level employees. Their own whistleblowers say, no, it's from the top. Obviously it's from the top. And Glenn Beck, I don't want to spend time on him, but every time I talk about it, it's all over the news, so I'm glad to be able to, at least say, this is the archetype of a Benedict Arnold, how he's uncloaked, running to Zuckerberg. He came out and said, there is no censorship. They're not doing anything wrong. Conservatives are dumb and don't know how to use Facebook, while Facebook is admitting they've done it. That is unprecedented. Are they blackmailing him, or what is his problem? Doesn't he even get the optics? Socio like this. He's self-image, or is that wrong?
Well, I've had the exact same experience that you have, Alex. Facebook has systematically closed down some of my sites when I try to disseminate the truth about Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Clinton, who I like to refer to as the grifters. So I've had the exact same experience, and I think it is chilling. Look, I've always had a good relationship with Glenn Beck, and he has been generous in his discussion of my books. So I don't know what's happened to him. He seemed to go off the edge when Donald Trump took off as a candidate. I figured that perhaps he'd sold his soul to Ted Cruz and his backers financially, because I'm not sure his communications model at the Blaze is working the way, say, InfoWars works or some of the other successful right-of-center operations. But I'll tell you what I do want to hit today because it's important, and that is I want to warn all of your viewers and listeners about something called Great America PAC.
Oh, you talked about this, and Trump's tweeted about it, and he said this isn't me, and they don't. I'm glad you raised that, because WorldNet Daily's exposed that, right, Dr. Corsi?
There's a major story on WorldNet Daily today by the great Jerry Corsi. It's been exposed in the New York Times in a piece by Maggie Haberman. Boone Pickens, the Texas oil billionaire, recently withdrew from a fundraiser. This fellow, Ed Rollins, who wears this Reagan credential on his sleeve, works by day at Teneo. Teneo is the Clinton-connected lobbying firm run by Bill Clinton's former running buddy and chief of staff, Doug Band.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton has made millions out of Teneo. So I think that this is I think Rollins is a saboteur. There was a fellow named Dean on Fox Business News this morning. He's their new finance chairman. He neglected to tell us that as Ben Carson's finance chairman, he spent $4.2 million to raise $5.5 million.
Wow.
Folks, if you want to help Donald Trump and you want to give, go to the official Trump for President website. Even though he is not soliciting funds, there is a link there where you can contribute voluntarily. That's where you should put your money.
Roger Stone, let me raise this here, because, look, I know he said the primary, I'm not going to take big money. I get all that, but I want to beat Hillary. I mean, she's going to raise billions. As long as he says, I'm going to follow the Constitution, your money means nothing, it means you're supporting me. That's what it should be. Hey, I'm going to follow the Constitution. If you like that, give me money. And then I don't care if he has PACs that gets money. I really think he's at a disadvantage. I know he said he wouldn't do it early on, but now we're in the general election. I mean, am I wrong to say he needs to go ahead and spread his wings and try to get as much money as possible?
Hey, look, Alex, he would be a fool to unilaterally disarm. Money is still the mother's milk of American politics.
It's a weapon. I need it to operate. It'd be crazy if I didn't do that.
Exactly. Plus, I think he's smart enough to know that the Wall Street, K Street types are going to have their CYA money. Why shouldn't he take it? The point is, I've said here before, you can't buy Donald Trump, not for $1, not for $1 million, not for $100 million.
He's extremely stubborn. That's a good thing when it comes to the fight.
He's his own man. But I would urge people who want to help Trump, there is one legitimate PAC out there, the Committee for American Sovereignty. I know those folks. They're honest, hardworking people. They're not going to steal the money in overhead or in rich consultant fees. But this Great America PAC run by Ed Rollins is a scam. It's a fraud.
Is Benton still sneaking around over there?
Give the money directly to Trump. That's the best thing to do.
Sure. I mean, is Benton still sneaking around in there?
Well, he supposedly now has disassociated himself. You refer to Jesse Benton, who sabotaged two Paul campaigns, the Ron Paul campaign.
There was no doubt. I watched it happen and held my tongue because I mean, it was bad.
Very, very sad. But since he was convicted of bribery in connection with the Ron Paul campaign only weeks ago, he seems to have dropped from sight, and they say he is no longer associated with Great America PAC. Just the fact that a convicted felon was there a week ago should be a concern for donors.
Clip one of the new mini ads, because Americans' attention span's out of a goldfish now, but exposing what happened with the rape cases. I just love what Trump's doing. Here it is.
I was very nervous. No woman should be subjected to it. It was an assault.
He starts to lie on my top lip, and I try to pull away from him.
Here we go again. Trump, make America great again. Make America free again. It's my slogan. I want to get some calls. Amazing points here. Other points we should know about, other attacks. What keeps you up at night with concern? I know you're just too busy charging ahead, Roger Stone, but what else?
I'm not up at night with concern. I'm up at night because I'm excited. This is going to be a winning campaign, and I'm just grateful to stand outside the tent and do my own thing. I do think.
Did you talk to the next president of the United States this morning?
I did, in fact, call to congratulate him on this ad, which I think is spectacular. But beyond that, as you know, our conversations are proprietary and they're personal. Donald Trump is not scripted by anybody, certainly not.
I know that. But I tell you, you got to watch out because they figured out that you're definitely influential in there.
Trump can read. Good God, it's not as if the Clintons' record is unknown. All this information is out there. You've presented it for years, as have others.
Let me ask you a question, because I've been out to dinner with you and stuff. You're in good shape, really good shape for your age. You send me emails and text messages at 2 a.m., 7 a.m., 6 a.m. I sleep 6-7 hours. I got a lot of energy. You got so much energy. I just hope everybody knows how hard Roger Stone's working. 7 days a week. You are doing stuff, man.
Well, it's a combination of exercise, in eating right, and then, frankly, natural supplements like Brain Force. Look, I know they try to make us kooks because we believe that herbs and supplements can actually affect your physical and mental performance. But they do. Brain Force is a great product, and it works.
Well, sure, they said people were kooks.
Mental clarity. So, yeah, I believe in alternative medicine. I see an acupuncturist once a week for balance. Acupuncture's been around for 2,000 years. Western medicine's been around for roughly 200 years. But look, the adrenaline is flowing. As George C. Scott said when he was playing General Patton, a great line, he said, "God, I love war." This is a war for the future of the United States of America.
Yeah, it's a good war. It's an info war. They want to make it physical and shut our free speech up. I'm skipping the break because here's the deal. I may even do a whole show of 3 hours of dead air, son, 4 hours, to protest the censorship and Facebook and all the things that are coming out. So separate from Beck, though, isn't it amazing that Facebook, we know they do this in third world countries. They help, the dictators and the communists. But to catch Zuckerberg, and here you are saying they blacked you out. They erased your sites. They blocked your sites on the Clintons' war on women. Oh, that was one of them they took down. And we just kind of like, yeah, that's what they do. This is outrageous. These people are authoritarians.
Well, look, I think they regret ever letting the internet go forward. Life was so much easier for the establishment when they had 3 television networks and a couple national newspapers.
Senator Rockefeller said that before he left office, remember?
Yes, indeed. For example, if the Kennedy assassination were to happen today, there would have been so many cell phone cameras on the Dealey Plaza, it would be impossible to suppress the truth. But since you had one cameraman, and I think we both agree that his film was later altered.
Well, they admit it.
And they do admit it. It would no longer be possible. The truth can no longer be suppressed. That's why they keep talking about regulating the internet. They don't want to regulate the internet. They want to shut it down because patriots and everyone else can now communicate with each other.
And this is the famous fight. When Drudge was told last year by the Supreme Court Justice at a meeting, he said, they're coming after everybody next year. They're coming after us. Now they've whacked Scalia. There's no doubt. They are moving. And this is a war, folks. This is it. And I think they're failing. I think because Trump arising during this time is such a powerful force with the presumptive nominee now, basically like Godzilla in front of us as our leader, and we're all turbocharging. It gives us all cover. We are routing these bastards.
Well, and just, look, I've met a lot of tough guys in my day. I've never met anybody tougher than Donald Trump. The guy is, he's courageous. He's bold. He knows he's taking his life in his hands when he goes out there, but he's decided that this is something he must do. I pray for him every day. I pray for his safety.
And by the way, he looks totally energized, doesn't he? I know you won't tell me the private stuff. I know he was energized, but he's really energized. He's loving this.
Well, and he's doing a West Coast swing here of states whose primaries really no longer matter, but because he wants to spread the word and show the flag, and he's going to campaign.
He's a
in
fighter.
California.
He jumps out in front of all the communists when they block the road and just marches right in front of them and jumps down 5-foot culverts. I just love it.
Yeah, no, look, he's a leader. It's time for America to have a leader. Look, I thought Ronald Reagan was one of the greatest presidents in my lifetime, and I was honored to have a small role in his election. But this election is actually more important.
It's epic.
It's for all the marbles. This is the epic showdown between the globalists who are for the New World Order and those who believe in the Constitution as envisioned by the Founding Fathers. Not a living document, not something subject to change, meant exactly as it was written at the time.
Incredible. I want to go to phone calls. We've only got about 7 minutes left. Each quick questions from Carol and Joe and Bill and Tom and Elijah and others. I didn't